terrorism, or as it created something, and now that thing has become a hydra-headed monster, which is engulfing its own creator, if I may say like that. But you see, I take Pakistan as our neighboring country, and I have nothing ill against my neighboring country. But I need to make my neighboring country understand that unless the military remains in the barracks and the civilian democracy and the civilian politicians.
Namaskar and welcome to ISSF SAMVAAD. SAMVAAD is a platform where we invite the best and the brightest mind to discuss and deliberate on topics related to international relations and geopolitics. In today's episode, we have a rather very special guest with us, Dr. Jyoti M. Pathania. Dr. Pathania is a professor at the Jindal School of International Affairs at OP Jindal Global University and has over 2 decades of teaching and research experience in various universities in India and abroad. She holds a PhD in political science, an MA and MPhil from the prestigious Jawaharlal Nehru University, and a graduate degree from Lady Shri Ram College. She is the founder and chief editor of the online Indian Journal of Peace and Conflict Resolution and has a podcast named Indian Conflict Resolution. She is a member of the Non-Traditional Security Asia Consortium at the RSIS School at the National University of Singapore. She has received several awards for her work, including the prestigious Professor Randhir Singh Award, the Professor N.N. Agarwal Memorial Award, and a commendation from the former CDS and Chief of Army Staff, late General Bipin Rawat, for her excellence in research. She has published several books and articles, and today Dr. Pathania joins us to discuss her new book, The Deep State Continuum in Pakistan and its implications for India. Dr. Pathania is also known for her concept of uniform democracy. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Pathania to ISSF Samvad. Ma'am, namaste. What an honor it is for us to have you on our show.
Namaskar to everybody, and thank you for having me.
Right, ma'am. Ma'am, before we delve deep into the topics related to this book, we would briefly like to know what were your motivations behind writing this book.
All right. Well, Udayan, I was very intrigued in my university days, and even while I was studying in JNU, we used to keep hearing the word deep state. And, it was left there and then. So it had intrigued me as to what exactly is this deep state. So I went down to further research and, to try and understand what is the etymology of this term deep state. And we keep hearing deep state in America, deep state in Pakistan, Turkey, Syria. But what is it is what I wanted to talk about and do research. And that's how my quest started with this whole work and research on the very concept of deep state. And it took me a long time. And in fact, I have tried to theorize the concept of deep state in international relations theory. But as you know, theories are not just made, in a jiffy. So it's work in progress. But then I have tried to give a theoretical construct to the conceptology of the deep state, especially in context of Pakistan.
Right, ma'am. So, ma'am, your book argues that the deep state in Pakistan is a continuum. Can you explain what you mean by that and how does that differ from the traditional understanding of the deep state?
Well, you see, deep state reflects something deeper, which is there in the political system of Pakistan. When I say deeper, I mean there is a collusion of sorts with the intelligentsia, with the Pakistan military, with the landlords initially, bureaucrats also. And this term was spoken now about as establishment. So then there was another version which said it's an establishment can also be called a deep state. So what happened is that this collusion of these four institutions, if I may say, makes a deep state. What does it do? It undermines the writ of the civilian government. And it works as a shadow kind of a governance. So your issues of national security, your issues of foreign policy, and your nuclear button, including the domestic politics to quite an extent, all are within the gambit of the deep state. So it is, in a sense, working as the real government, though acting like a real government. So that is what is in crux the deep state in Pakistan. And as I call it, like you rightly said in your introduction, uniformed democracy. When I coined this term, uniform, that means the men in the uniform are the ones who are controlling the political system, or so to say, the democracy, making it a kind of hybrid democracy in Pakistan, or a garrison state, or an oligarchic state. And this, why is it uniform? It is uniform because this form of governance has been a consistent, persistent, and a uniform, sustained pattern of democracy since the very genesis of Pakistan as an independent nation.
Right, ma'am. Ma'am, if you talk about the pillars of the deep state, we generally have, we listen a lot about the army, but I would like you to shed light on the ISI, because it is famously said that the ISI are more Taliban than the Taliban themselves. They conduct them with a certain zeal. They conduct them with a certain zeal, and we also see that sometimes the ISI, they think that they are separate from the army and they operate as a separate entity. So what is your view? What are your views on ISI's role into this deep state structure?
Well, you see, the subversion of the political system has been done, if I may say, by the ISI. And why do I say that? I say that because I'll give you three factors. A, ISI's leadership has manipulated the domestic politics in three factors. Number one, it has employed techniques like sabotage, and why and how, I'll tell you. They set up alliances. And factions within political parties. For example, under the patronage of DG ISI Lieutenant General Hamid Gul, the ISI formed the Islami Jamhuri Ittihad Party, the IJI, an alliance of mostly right-wing parties, which brought together the right-wing politicians like Nawaz Sharif with religious leaders in 1998. Now, this was done, why? This was done to prevent Benazir Bhutto's PPP from sweeping the polls. So it manipulates, it alters, and when needed, it also has collusion with the right-wing parties to stall the coming up of a political party which it doesn't want to come in power. So setting up of alliances and factions within the political party is one. Second, funding. Funding is a major, shall I say, booster for the ISI. And why I say that? Because, it undermines the political parties' motives. And because they are funded by the ISI. And let me quote you an example, which I also quoted in the book. Where during a hearing of one of the generals who was accused of funding the political party, the Supreme Court Chief Justice, Sajid Ali Shah, during a hearing on the ISI's role in domestic politics, this was in the year 1997, it recorded the statement of General Mirza Aslam Beg, who admitted that It is a practice, he says, of ISI to support candidates and use the secret service accounts for the disposal of money during election season. And he mentioned, and this is in the Supreme Court's recording, he mentioned that Lieutenant General Asad Durrani had received 60 million for funding of certain candidates. So this shows the, the kind of response and the kind of money that is being funded and pumped into the political parties so that they tie up to the line of the establishment or the deep state. Third, as I told you, the intelligence agencies also have been supportive of the right-wing extremist and the radical sectarian parties. This is again, which I have put it in my book. For instance, the military ruler Ziaul Haq, he led the country to an Islamization process, which also included enacting of Islamic laws, establishing of federal Sharia courts, mandating Islamic education in schools, colleges, so on and so forth.
Right, ma'am. Ma'am, while you were talking, you talked about all these big numbers, that 60 million worth of funding was there. So I would like you to shed some more light on the finances of the deep state, because I think everyone who is tracking Pakistan is aware of the whole Fauji Foundation fiasco. And very recently, there was an investigative report which said that in the United States, the largest owner of the Papa John pizza chain, it was a general, was a retired general of Pakistan Army. So in India also, in strategic circle, we hear this thing that if India allows trade, India allows economic incentive to the deep state, so the cross-border terrorism that the deep state pushes into our country, that will stop. So what are your views on that?
You see, it's not only me who's saying this. There are Pakistani scholars like Aisha Jalal, Saeed Shafkat, Hussein Haqqani, Hassan Abbas, and even Mazhar Aziz. They all, if you read their books, they all circumscribe to, a broadly single sentence, and that is that military has played their role in a very manipulative manner. And why? To serve its own interest, and thereby, if I may say, weakening the state system. And when I say to serve their own interest, I also mean, and majorly mean, the economic interest. And that's why the army commanders in Pakistan are also known as Karor commanders, because it's not hidden. And not as somebody who is researching Pakistan, but I have quoted you the Pakistan scholars who are of the same opinion. And if I may take it a little further, Udayan, Professor Munir Amar of Karachi University, he said, he wrote a wonderful article on the deep state in Pakistan. And he said it's the bureaucracy, the landlords, the intelligence agencies, and the army. These are the four core actors of the deep state of Pakistan, which conforms to deep state. So this coming out from a professor of his stature tells you that it is not just the political circle, perhaps the civil society itself has become conformist to the concept of deep state. So, Pakistan is a paradoxical country. Authoritarianism, or shall I say, authoritarianism for many, many years has not garnered support. And constitutional democracy also, true, genuine constitutional democracy also has not garnered support in Pakistan. So it's a paradoxical country where you have two kinds of systems trying to engross each other and prevail one upon the other. And this is something which needs to be studied, or understood when we are dealing with a country, like Pakistan. And again, I would like to quote one of the Pakistani authors, Maria Rashid. She says, you know, it is a military doctored culture, which is also afflicting not only the military, but also the civilians. They have these major ceremonies of Yom Difa and Yom Shuda, where the martyrs, their families, they are told to go up on the stage, receive the award, and then when they go back to their homes, they are, really welcomed well, and they are, that whole village talks about the martyred family, and then the mother herself is willing to send her own son again to the military, to maybe Gilgit-Baltistan, or near to the border. They are willing to send their children because so much of money is given to them and so much of respect is given to them, that those functions are basically organized, for showing respect to the martyred families. So these are little way where Maria Rashid says that, people keep sending their kids to the military.
Right, ma'am. Ma'am, I'd like to shift our focus towards the Durand line, towards Afghanistan. Uh, as you can see, ma'am, there has been a regime change. We all saw how the Taliban fighters, they bicycled their way into the heart of Kabul last year. Uh, Initially, there was a mood of jubilation in Pakistan that we have achieved our strategic depth, and even I think Lieutenant General Faiz Hamid, he went and he had a tea. There is a very famous picture of him having tea in a Kabul hotel.
Yes.
But now, 1 year forward, uh, the situations have seemed to be changed. They are getting hammered left, right, and center in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and on the border. The Taliban, which was said to be the arm of the deep state, it is now showing its resistance against the deep state itself, the hand that it fed. So, what are your views on this whole Afghanistan situation? Uh, was it a blunder? Was it a blunder of the deep state to do this?
I would like to put it, I would like to, in fact, dwell further into the current political crisis and economic crisis in Pakistan. And then I'm going to get the TTP and the Taliban factor also in it. You see, if we start with, there was in the newspaper of Pakistan, I think it was Express Tribune, 9th Jan 2023. And they spoke about the lawlessness in Karachi, where the whole city is, there are those barricades put across in each cities. There is, shall I say, increase of cases of robbery in and lawlessness. And you have these barricades being put, and this was quoted by the Express Tribune on 9 January, which highlights, what does it highlight? This highlights the state of lawlessness which the country is facing. It also highlights the state of economic, this high inflation rate, as you all know, though Pakistan has been out of the FATF grey list after 4 years. But, the high inflation rate, the floods in Pakistan, all these situations have, aggravated the crisis in Pakistan. And yes, like you rightly said, that Afghanistan being proactive towards Taliban and initially being very happy is now bearing the brunt of its own policies. It had not perhaps expected that this would happen, but initially Pakistan thought that the strategic depth in its neighborhood, that is, in Afghanistan, was an asset to it. But as late as, again, I think 2-3 years back, not 2-3 years, 2-3 days back, again, their Pakistan interior minister Rana Sananullah. He said if Taliban could not take action against TTP in Afghanistan, he said Pakistan has the right to target TTP hideouts to defend its sovereignty within Afghanistan. Now, look at this statement. If you put across such statement and the interior minister is talking like this, how do you think it is going to be responded to by Afghanistan? I don't think it's going to be taken very happily, you know. Then, of course, there's high alert. On 5th of January, I was going through some of the Pakistani newspapers. There was high alert in Islamabad because people are worried about, what is the state of the federal government. Police and the recent intelligence agencies, they are arresting dozens and dozens of people on the pretext that they are militants from the TTP, and okay. Take Baluchistan, for instance. Take Gilgit-Baltistan. Now, Gilgit-Baltistan, again, their basic ontological needs, I think, are more important than creating a sports winter festival in Gilgit-Baltistan. There have been extensive power cuts. The land right is an issue. Taxation is an issue. And recently, General Asim Munir, the current chief of the Pakistan army, he went to Saudi Arabia for what? He met the crown prince. And of course, under the gamut of improving bilateral trades, we all know he went there to get some aid, and they have promised him an aid of about, I think, $11 billion to get Pakistan out of this financial crunch. And some of the reports said that, where is China now, if I may ask? We don't see China funding Pakistan, for its flood crisis or for its economic meltdown, if I may put it there. So the point is that, Pakistan needs to understand one thing. Terrorism, or as it created something, and now that thing has become a hydra-headed monster, which is engulfing its own creator, if I may say like that. But you see, I take Pakistan as our neighboring country, and I have nothing ill against my neighboring country. But I need to make my neighboring country understand that unless the military remains in the barracks and the civilian democracy and the civilian politicians, which we all, have to wait and watch. Now, when you spoke about Taliban, I would also like to mention LET. LET remains tightly tied. You spoke about ISI, it remains tightly tied to the ISI. And it operates throughout South Asia, not just in India. In fact, there was a research conducted by Christine Fair, again, and, she read about 800 biographies of LET militants. And she came up with her analysis by saying that, they fight because, like I told, she also stated that the mothers are the one who are sending their kids to fight. So the mother is the real hero. And why does she do that? Because not only does she get the great, shall I say, she gets a lot of popularity. She gets a lot of publicity. She is known as the martyr's mother, and so there is upliftment of their standard of what they were and now what the standard of living is, because they are not only given land, they're given money, and the mother is now known as the mother of the great leader, or the great martyr. And though that martyr is an LET terrorist in front of our eyes, or in front of the UN as well. So there has been a rise of TTP as well as Baloch attacks in Pakistan. And like I told you, Pakistan is paying for its terror addiction, if I may say that. And in fact, recently there are about 30,000 to 40,000 terrorists or militants operational in around that region, Afpak region, which not only believe, and they are proliferating narco-terrorism, small arms, and even nuclear weapons. In fact, today's paper spoke about, say that the foreign policy of Pakistan is again India-centric. Why do I say that? I say that because from its very genesis, Pakistan has had a revisionist kind of attitude towards in India. It feels that India is an existential threat for Pakistan. And this kind of narrative has been building throughout so many years. And even the military and the political establishment, which is in cahoots with the military, they also propagate this. Why? Because of the survival of the army, or the core actor of the deep state, that is the army. Now, again, you asked about foreign policy. I would like to say this deep state continuum has far-reaching implications for India. Why? A, on geostrategic front, B, on geopolitical front, C, on geoeconomic front, and D, on socio-political front. Now, I'm going to take a minute to explain all this. Pakistan has been following what I call Fabian strategy. What is Fabian strategy? It is a strategy which Pakistan has been following since 1947. It is a military strategy where pitched battles and frontal assaults are avoided in favor of wearing down an opponent through a war of attrition or indirection. So, though it is not a full-fledged war, but it is a war in continuum, in, spread out, to keep the enemy engaged. And this strategy has been followed by Pakistan vis-a-vis India. Now, Pakistan uses its geostrategic location, and it has used it to gather funds from not only China, but also US. The great game, I'm sure you must be knowing about it. We all spoke about the great game theory and how Pakistan benefited. Then it became a military alliance of many, Seato, Cento, just to gain aid. But what did it achieve? This, especially now with regard to India, after the abrogation of Article 370, their whole dynamics has changed. Now they're wanting to not only keep the Kashmir issue alive, they're now indoctrinating the local youth, and making it more of a local fight rather than a fight which is coming across through borders. So geostrategically, Pakistan has played itself vis-a-vis India. It has used its geographical location to not only take gains from other countries, but also, proxy war, insurgency, and terrorism. These are the three geostrategic factors that Pakistan has been using. And sometimes at the premise of saying that we ourselves are the sufferers of terrorism, they do get away with. So economics, I don't have to say, we all know where, had India and Pakistan traded, we have the potential to do $37 billion trade, and we are just doing about 2 right now. So we have the potential, and we do need each other for trade. A lot of things can be done, but we are not working at. God-gifted geographical proximity is not being utilized for the gains of both the countries. That's the saddest part. And of course, social culturally, we again are, neighbors, but how much of, films or media is actually shared between both the nations? Hardly any.
Right, ma'am. I think, ma'am, this was a very enlightening discussion we had, and on a very crucial topic, because we might not be directly impacted by what is happening in US, we might not be directly impacted by what is happening in Europe, but every Indian is directly impacted by what is happening in Pakistan. And at ISSF, ma'am, we had two kinds of our audience base is divided into two kinds of people. One who are services aspirants who are aiming to join the civil services, and hence they want to learn about international relations and geopolitics. And the second part, the second group are the people who are into research, who are research scholars. So the second group always used to complain that you do not have anything for us, that you do not have anything for us. So I can say to them that we have finally something for you. So ma'am,
Okay.
thank you so much for your time, and it has been a pleasure. And we will link, I think the book is available on both amazon Amazon and Flipkart.
Yeah. And also
And
on Kindle.
and the Kindle version is available as well. And we will link the book's description in the description. And I think our readers can go and purchase a copy for themselves and enjoy. So ma'am, it has been an honor and a pleasure for us. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for coming on Samvad. Namaste.
Thank you, Namaskar. Thank you so much. All the best.
Thank you so much, ma'am.